The lights dimmed in the massive auditorium, and a tense silence swept over the crowd. The judges sat upright, their pens frozen midair. The audience leaned forward, waiting to see the next performer, a thin boy, no older than 14, walking nervously onto the stage. His clothes were worn out, his shoes were torn at the edges, and his hands trembled as he held the microphone. But his eyes, those dark, calm eyes, carried a storm of emotion. "My name is Arjun," he said softly. "I'll be singing My Heart Will Go On." A murmur ran through the hall. Everyone knew the song. Few could do it justice. And certainly, no one expected a poor boy, who looked like he hadn't eaten a full meal in days, to even attempt it. When the music began, something changed in the air. His first note was fragile, trembling, but it held something pure, something deeper than technique. Within seconds, the audience went still. His voice, though young, carried years of pain. He sang like someone who had lived through loss, through hunger, through sleepless nights. Behind the curtains, a stagehand whispered to another, "That's the boy who lives near the old bridge, right? The one who sings for coins." They nodded. Everyone in town had seen Arjun singing at bus stops, under streetlights, outside cafes, just to earn enough to buy food for himself and his little sister, Meera. Their parents had died in a flood 2 years ago. The same flood that took their home, their dreams, and everything they owned. The only thing left was a small photograph of their mother, holding them both as babies. Every night before sleeping under the bridge, Arjun would hum his mother's favorite song, "My Heart Will Go On." It was the only lullaby that made Meera smile through the hunger and the cold. But tonight, this song wasn't just for Meera. It was for every tear he'd hidden, every time he'd been ignored, every time someone walked past him like he didn't exist. He poured everything into his voice, the sorrow of loss, the beauty of hope. The notes trembled with his heartbeats. By the time he reached the final verse, his voice cracked. His eyes filled with tears, but he didn't stop. The audience did. They stopped breathing, stopped blinking. It was as if time froze. Then came the last note, soft, haunting, and perfect. When the music faded, there was silence. For 3 full seconds, the world stood still. Then came an eruption of applause that shook the hall. People rose to their feet, cheering, crying. One of the judges, a famous singer known for her tough critiques, covered her face with her hands, unable to hold back her tears. That, she whispered into the mic, was not just a performance. That was life itself singing. Arjun stood frozen, shocked by the standing ovation. For the first time in years, he wasn't invisible. The host ran onto the stage and asked, "Where did you learn to sing like that?" Arjun looked down and said quietly, "My mother used to sing it to us before she went to work. I just remembered." When the golden buzzer was hit, the confetti rained down like stars. Arjun dropped to his knees, crying. He wasn't just a poor boy anymore. He was a voice that touched hearts, a story that would inspire millions. But behind the glitter, his journey hadn't been easy. For weeks before the audition, he had walked miles to find a place to practice. He couldn't afford music lessons, so he recorded famous singers on an old, cracked phone he found in the garbage. At night, he would listen to them until the battery died, memorizing every breath, every emotion. He often sang with an empty stomach, his voice shaking from exhaustion. But he never gave up. Meera, his little sister, had encouraged him every step of the way. "When you sing, Mama hears you," she used to say. Those words kept him going. And on that stage, when the world finally listened, he felt as if his mother was right there, smiling through the lights. After his audition went viral, life began to change. Donations poured in. Music schools offered him scholarships. But Arjun remained humble. The first thing he did with the money he earned was to buy a small home for himself and Meera. He hung their mother's photo on the wall and promised he would make her proud. Months later, when he performed again on the show's final stage, he didn't try to impress anyone. He sang the same song, "My Heart Will Go On," but this time, it wasn't a cry of pain. It was a message of gratitude, of survival, of love that truly goes on. As he hit the final note, he smiled. There were no tears this time, only peace. The audience stood again, but this time, they weren't just applauding his voice. They were honoring his journey, the boy who had nothing but a dream, and who proved that even from the darkest places, light can rise. The host ended the show saying, "Sometimes, the poorest hearts carry the richest songs." And that night, millions of viewers around the world felt the same thing: goosebumps, hope, and a reminder that no matter where you come from, your voice matters. Because sometimes, the songs that stay with us the longest come from the ones who had the least, but gave the most.